moved to Atlanta from Knoxville, Tennessee, it was time to find a dry cleaners. Now, I'm like most of you in this room, I clean a lot of clothes. I'm in the cleaners typically twice a week. Take them in, pick them up a couple times a week. I finally had found a cleaners there in Atlanta, and you can imagine suburban Atlanta, there's dry cleaners just about every corner. Finally found one I was happy with. They were giving me product to my satisfaction. They were cleaning my clothes as I liked it. I've been going in there for about a year. Had my clothes, put them up on the counter, and I heard her ask me one more time. Last name, Ford. First initial, L. I knew the next question, 3944860. And all of a sudden I realized these people have no idea who I am. I've been coming in here for a year weekly, and they don't recognize me. I recognize them. It's the same three people who've been working at that front counter the entire year. So what did I do? What's your guess? Found another one. It's called Switch Vote with My Feet, and my money went with me. I also, exactly, thank you. My money went with me. I did something very typical, and I did not bother to tell them. See, most of us don't bother to complain. We don't think it'll do any good. It's like, why bother? It's not worth the hassle. That's why I hope you're out there doing number one, beg for complaints. Now, I know some of you just thought, Lisa, I don't have to beg. I mean, that little voice just kind of went through the head. Well, I think we've got to beg for feedback, beg for information. Here's what we know. Information and research done by TARP tells us if you have 100 unhappy customers, 4 tell you. 96 walk. That's why we've got to beg for complaints. I did not bother complaining. Even though they were giving me the product, it wasn't enough. I wanted something else. I wanted the service attached. So I said, that's it. Took my business elsewhere. Actually, my husband found the second cleaners. He dropped the clothes off. I happened to pick them up on a Saturday morning. I was then in the closet Saturday afternoon after doing some errands, dividing the clothes out in the closet. 2 pair of trousers his, 1 pair of my trousers. As I was hanging his trousers on his side, I noticed a lot of stains and spots, just dark spots on these khaki trousers. I checked mine. Identical stains and spots. I put them all back in the plastic bag, got back in the car, and drove back to the cleaners. This started a 12-week saga with this cleaners. Saga, you all know exactly what I'm doing. 12 weeks. There's something called the iron law of customer feedback. It goes like this. When a customer has a complaint or a problem, respond either on the spot or 24 to 48 hours. Here's what we know. If you're that responsive, you can see customer satisfaction increase anywhere from 82 to 95% because they're so impressed with how responsive you are. This dry cleaner's never heard this stuff. 12 weeks. 12 weeks. This dry cleaner's never heard much of anything. You all have heard this statistic. When a customer is satisfied, we typically tell 4 to 5 associates, friends, coworkers. When we are dissatisfied, how many do we tell? 10, 12, at least twice as many. We tell usually in the range of 9 to 12. This dry cleaners had never heard that stuff. Matter of fact, Mr. Art Bolton, the general manager of Sears Dry Cleaners on Sandy Springs Circle, North Atlanta, west side of Roswell, outside the perimeter, had no idea what I did for a living. Didn't tell him. On a good week, I'll tell 500 people. And I have no shame in telling this story because every phone call that had to be made, I had to make it. This man would never return my phone calls. When we were talking, all of you have dealt with somebody irate before. Okay, he would do about 85% of the talking, leaving me, the irate customer, only 15% of the talk time. You know that's the wrong percentage. And at one point in the conversation, this man had the nerve to say this to me. He said, I have been dry cleaning for 31 years. Are you trying to tell me how to run my dry cleaners, Missy? Oh, yeah. They called me Missy. Oh, these were fighting words. Now again, I know there may be a little bit of a handicap. If you're not from the South, you don't like being called Missy unless it's your real name. Okay, I mean, these are fighting words, and we went downhill from here. Okay, now this was, I really should not tell you all this part. But I know, the story's actually worse than I will bother to tell you up here. But this is the part that every time this phone call needed to be made, I would say to my husband, honey, would you call him? I called him last time. And every time my husband would say, oh, but honey, you're so much better at it than I am. Have y'all heard this before? Here's the part that really burned me up. I'd be in the kitchen on the phone. My husband would be standing there about 8 feet away saying, tell him this, say this. I'm ready to choke him. I mean, it's if you'd wanted to call, why didn't you pick up this phone and call him? I mean, but that's, notice this, cleaners. No product, and certainly they're not decidedly different with their people. Third, cleaners. You knew it was coming. Master Clean, Roswell Road, recommendation of a neighbor. Took the clothes in. She got my name and phone number. And then she said, have you been in before? No. Then can we have your address? Just in case we ever transpose your phone number, we'll always have your address on file and can reach you. Okay. They were building a mailing list, but it was a great way to put it, so I was like, sure. Okay. And they gave me the orange ticket and said, those will be ready after 4 o'clock, and you might want to use the drive-through. Okay. Came back that afternoon. 4th car back in the drive-through. I'm not a patient person. Being 4th car back in the drive-through, just be fast if I park, run in. But at that moment, somebody comes out of the drive-through door. They come back to our car, 4th in line, get the ticket, go back in. By the time they come back out, we're 3rd in line. They tell us how much it is. They get our money. They go back in. By the time we're 1st in line, they simply hand us our change, put our clothes in the car, and we're on our way. And they clean our clothes beautifully. They give us the great product. But they do 2 things. 2 things that just amaze me, that make them decidedly different. Let me tell you the one. And the first one is silly, but you can all relate to it. When I'm in my cleaners, mostly I park and go in, mainly because of the access road and how they sit on a corner and the way I travel down that road most of the time. So very simply, here I am, going in. Nearly every time, there are a couple people in front of me. So I'm waiting to be served. Here's the silly part. Just about every time, somebody from the front counter leans over and says, good morning, Miss Ford. You know the silly part. I feel important in my cleaners. Those 2 people in front of me turn to see who's there. I'm standing there like, they know me here. Okay, I mean, it's ridiculous, but we love it when people know us, recognize us, and use our name. Simple concept. I told you they did 2 things. Second thing, every year at Christmas, they exceed my expectations. How do they exceed my expectations? Very simply, they give me a gift. The gift is one of those, the rolling, masking tape thing, those lint rollers. They give me one every year. I've never owned one of those. I mean, I truly, it exceeds my expectations. The first year I got it, I went downstairs. My husband was downstairs doing something on the computer. I went downstairs and was like, honey, look what they gave me. Oh yeah, my husband sat there and said, is that all it takes? Oh yeah, he'd been working for weeks. It's like, what am I going to buy her this year? And it's like, a lint roller would have done it. I mean, you know better, but especially those of you who know my husband, certainly know he said it, and you know me better. But it's just one of those amazing things that they exceed my expectations of the lint roller. I've never owned one of those things. Anytime I had major lint on something, I had to go in the junk drawer in the kitchen, get the masking tape, wrap it around my hand, and do that, or get those long strips and go down. You've all done it. Because I own clothes brushes. Clothes brushes do not remove hairs. They just straighten them out nicely. And it's now a straight white dog hair. I mean, it's just amazing. Think about it. Are you exceeding expectations?